Hello, YouTube. How are you? Thank you so much if you're joining this live. My name is Mecca. I live in the south of England. I grow most of my vegetables with my family. And I just wanted to come in here and chat about organic gardening. Is there really such a thing? The reason I'm chatting about this here is because I've actually just come into the allotment to spray. So I'll show you what I've got and I'll just talk about this, okay? Let's just show you. So that is my sprayer. I actually got a new sprayer. And these are my vegetables, okay? Now, the bean plant has been plagued with, what's it called? Aphids. Can I show you? Okay, can you see? It's all over this plant, okay? This is my second spray. So some of them actually have died, but then it's gonna make it difficult for me to actually harvest. Can you see the plants? And waiting for natural predators like ladybugs, waiting for things like ladybugs to come in and take over will probably take me ages if I want this crop to do well. Now, sometimes I question because I try to grow organically. I try to ensure that, I'm growing my food as natural as possible. And I learned a lot of gardening practice from my grandmother. She was a big time farmer in Africa. Sorry, I'm just trying to put in the battery for the sprayer. The sprayer has a battery. It's a new sprayer I got. By the way, an electric sprayer is a godsend because the manual one is just too time consuming. So back to my conversation. Is there such a thing as organic gardening in today's world? Okay, so my grandma grew. I never saw her spray. I'll show you. I never saw her deal with things like this. Okay, look, I can't actually possibly harvest this, can I? It's just pointless. I can't harvest beans covered in aphids and black fly. And then another big thing this beans has been plagued with is the bean weevil, okay? So when you store your beans, you have those weevils eating inside. So that's another thing to consider. Now, when this plant is in flower, you're advised not to spray it. But with beans, especially beans, if you've never grown beans before, you'll find out that beans are heavily sprayed because they have a lot of pests attacking them. So let's spray as we talk, okay? I'll try spraying as I go ahead talking. I'm surprised no one's joining this live. Let me see if there's any reason. Yeah, it's alive, it's not private. But if it's private, I'll take it off later. So beans are heavily sprayed with pesticides. So when you get organic beans, are you really... Hang on, let's turn the battery on. Turning on the battery. Once you turn it on... Okay, there you go. Are you really... I'll show you. Actually, let's turn that camera around so you see what we're doing. Okay. Right, back to the spray. Are you really actually getting organic beans, or are you getting something that has been sprayed with things? Now, organic means things that are permitted. So some sprays are permitted. For instance, I'm using a neem spray, okay? A neem spray and some essential oils. I actually have a video where I made this spray, and this is what I normally use for my plants. Neem is a really good, I'll call it an insecticide, but for organic gardening, it's a godsend. Because without something like neem, you end up resulting to something stronger, especially for bean plants, okay? For my carrots, I have to use nematodes. Nematodes are biological pesticides as well. So what is organic gardening if I have to spray to fight off, insects, to fight off diseases? What exactly is organic gardening? That is my question. All right, so I want us to ask this question because people always tell me, oh, I don't believe anything is organic. I don't believe there's anything as such as organic gardening. And my answer is, you know what, I'd rather have something that is closest to organic gardening than not at all. And for me, it means, if it means using a sprayer to achieve this result, then it is what it is. That's just how I look at it, okay? If it means me having to spray this every 2 weeks just to ensure, now look at that poor ladybug there. This spray, look at the ladybugs, but they're not doing the job. They're not enough. There's 3 or 4 of them there, but they're not enough to handle all the aphids in this whole, look at the bee frame. I've got a huge bee frame here. They're not enough to do the job. So I have to step in, and unfortunately, I might actually be affecting the ladybugs negatively with the spray. So organic gardening, is there such a thing? I think most commercial organic growers, let's put this standing so I can move around. I think most commercial organic growers actually use some form of sprays. Like I said, with beans, you have to spray it. You have to spray it, or else you will have the vine weevil and you have other bugs and diseases, okay? So this is a spray, and when I spray, I always add some feed. So I'm doing a foliar feed at the same time. I don't know if that helps. So I'm using comfrey, which is a homemade organic feed, and then I'm putting my neem oil and some soap. I use black African soap. You can use horticultural soap. Some people use dish soap and have the same results. I try not to spray flowers, but then if I'm trying to ensure I'm eradicating or preventing this bean weevil, I have to spray the whole plant, and I have to do this at least every 2 weeks until I harvest my beans, because the season when this thing is cropping is when you have the pests attacking. Someone has joined. Can you just chat and say hello? I was thinking no one could see me. I was thinking, am I actually on a private live? But thankfully I can see one person on the live. So hey, thank you so much for joining me. So the topic says, what exactly is organic gardening? Because a lot of people are always questioning this, like, hi. A lot of people always question, like, oh, there's no such thing as organic gardening. And yeah, it's not the same as, let's say, 30, 40 years ago growing up, okay? Seeing my grandma farm. She never needed to spray. She never needed to, she obviously they had pests and diseases, don't get me wrong, but they grew in a permaculture style. So they grew, it was a mix, not monocropping. It was always mixed cropping, and then they did a crop rotation. And I think that is one of the biggest things now. So we don't have the land to crop rotate and to let your land go fallow. We don't have that luxury, because they would leave a land to fallow for 5 years at the minimum and then go back again. So now we don't have that luxury, because that way they were able to manage and control pests and diseases. But today, guys, we actually don't have any of that luxury. We don't have the what's it called, real estate. Okay, I'm growing on an allotment site, and I'm really grateful to have this space. Some people haven't got this space available to them. So what do? You have to make the most of it. Now, there are other practices that really support the ecosystem, like Jadam practices, like obviously cropping with beneficial plants, and getting in things like ladybugs and more beneficial organisms to come and be the good predators. However, it's not so ideal. Like, okay, now I've got aphids here. They've been here for over a month before I even decided to spray. So I don't just go ahead, oh, I've seen aphids, I need to spray. No, I give it time and see what happens. But then now the beans are beginning to crop, and I need to harvest them. And I've shown you some clips of this thing covered in aphids. So I can't really be picking my beans covered in aphids, and that's just one thing. I still have to spray against the bean weevil. So that definitely, it will need spraying, or else I won't harvest. Now this, my bean pole, I'll show you what it's like. Okay, it was actually put here by the previous owner of this plot. So they have been growing beans. Let's see if I can zoom out. They have been, hello Estelicious, thank you for joining me. Okay, now they have been growing beans in this spot for, I was told, forever. So it's a beautiful bean frame, but as a result, you probably have these pests and diseases already, colonized in this place. I'll show you around and show you what it looks like. And if they're actually colonized, you can't really get rid of them apart from either you crop rotate and leave this place or you spray. Okay, we've actually changed the soil here. We dug up at least 10 inches and we replaced the soil from another bed. We actually did that. That was the best thing I could do when I started here, to ensure that there was no things that have overwintered in the soil. But it's still a case. Look at how, let's see, changing them. Let's see, can you see that? This is covered. This particular area really was hit. These 2 poles are covered in aphids. And yeah, actually here as well, I've got some covered here. And I had some peas here. I just took the peas out and I've planted some more beans. And the peas were covered in pea moth. Okay, so what exactly is organic gardening? If we have to do things like, okay, for my sunflower, I have to cover it, otherwise I'll have the wild animals, the birds or the squirrels, eating the whole sunflowers, and I want the sunflowers. I had the onion white rot here, and then to do the onion white rot, for you to be able to grow, you apparently need to leave the land for about 20 years or 5 years at the minimum. But most of the plot holders around here say it hasn't worked. So this is it. I don't really know the answer. Look at this beautiful sunflower. I have to cover it soon, or else, look, they'll start going in and having a meal. Okay. Organic gardening I don't think it's ever going to be the same way it used to be 30-40 years ago. We can try, and that's what I'm doing. I'm trying my best here. I'm using beneficials like, look at this, nasturtiums. They're meant to be trap crops. Okay, you've got lots of aphids there, but you will still have this aphids, especially depending on your season. You will have the aphids going into other plants. Okay, like my sweet corn here, I've got a big attack as well. As you can see, aphids all over, and they haven't even started tasting, so I need to spray them. You do have your ladybugs doing their thing. Let me turn this around, sorry, getting used to using this camera so that's the ladybug larva trying to recreate and reproduce and do its thing, but it's gonna take time, and it might not be giving me, say, 50% yield. Okay, look at these ones. Look at the calendula, covered, completely covered. The flowers all gone to waste. I couldn't harvest them, but anyway, I don't grow every single flower for harvesting. I also just use them to attract pollinators and also to beautify the plot. So yeah, organic gardening. I love growing food as natural as possible, but organic gardening today, in my humble opinion, will never and can never be the same as our ancestors. So we have to use biological, we have to use physical means to ensure that our plants that we're growing are actually harvestable. And for me, that's so important because I'm trying to be self-sufficient. So thank you if you've joined in. I'll try and not extend this. I've done 30 minutes of this live. I'm just gonna go ahead and do the whole spray. I've got a few more to spray, and this is in the evening. I have to come out in the evening, so it's not convenient, but this is the way I have to do this is what I have to do to ensure I harvest my crops. Look at this bed of beetroot. This is absolutely amazing. I'll just show you a little bit. These are some artichokes. They haven't formed the heads, and they look really happy there. Some corn over there, some thornless raspberries. So I do try to do the permaculture thing, mix things up. Some herbs there. That one's a self-seeded potato. This carrot bed needs a good weed. And yeah, so anyway, I will be going now, but thank you once again, and please kindly consider subscribing and share this video and let me know your thoughts. What do you think about organic gardening? How important is it to you that you eat organically? Guys, I shouldn't even go into that topic because organic food is best for us. Okay, not only is it more nutrient dense, it also has lower loads of pesticides And that is so important because pesticides have been shown to cause a lot of illnesses today, increasing the toxic burden on the body. And for the body to detoxify those pesticides can also increase the workload of all your organs, eventually making you prone or susceptible to other diseases. It's about to rain and I'm spraying. This rain was not expected. Anyway, the forecast said it might drizzle, but we've had a really hot season. It's been a heat wave over 31 degrees Celsius in England. That is really record breaking. So anyway, I'll go ahead and I'll see you guys in another one. Thank you and bye bye.